Hey, everybody. So, you might have noticed we've gone through a bit of a rebrand, and the podcast is now called My Brand of Impact. And there is a reason for that because I really want to focus on who you are and what that means. And this isn't just some sort of airy fairy way of saying you've got to be yourself and be authentic, because actually sometimes that really winds me up when I hear people saying, well, I just want to be authentic. I think it's a really lazy way of not saying anything really at all, and actually sometimes giving an excuse to poor behavior, especially in leadership and especially online. It's like, well, I was just being authentic. No, you mean you're being emotionally unintelligent. Forgive me for saying, but this is the thing. So what I actually want to approach in this episode is, what does being authentic mean, and what do I really mean by my brand of impact, or in fact your brand of impact? So I'm going to cover off a few of the things that I go through with clients, because we do this on one level. First of all, we have to really acknowledge who the human being is that we're talking to and we're dealing with, especially if you're going to be connecting with clients, with employees, and you're putting your brand out there and you're building your business and growing your business and using your personal brand to do that. Then yes, you're going to have to be authentic, but not emotionally unintelligent. We need to understand what that is. So I'm just going to have a very short go through about the key areas that I want you to think about when thinking about what your brand of impact is and what being authentic really means. Because authentic can apply in so many ways. What does it mean? It means genuine, it means real. And what does that mean? Because me, Alex, at home with my son, with my husband, that's me being me. When I'm being silly, or when I'm getting competitive playing board games, or when I'm just chilled out cooking, that's me. When out and I'm dancing, that's also me. When I'm being serious and I've got my serious head on and I'm doing my accounts and my VAT return and things like that, then that's also being me. So there are lots of ways that I can be real and authentic, but there are lots of actually different versions of me. And what I believe great personal branding is, when it comes to communicating about your business, it is about being really effective in how you're showing up in your relationships and what that means. So it means choosing the best version of yourself so that you can build those relationships, and also so that version of yourself is efficiently and correctly communicating the value of the work you do and the value of your business. Now, at the end of the day, that's really what you want to do. You want to have great conversations, really build relationships, and get to know people. And to be honest, if you were going to get to know me playing Monopoly, then you might not want to work with me. Maybe that Alex needs to stay away, you know. So it's a case of, yes, there's reality, but also there's a case of, well, who is the best version of you to show up as in your work? Because when I go up on stage, for instance, and I'm talking, even when I sit down here and I'm talking to you guys, it is a case of, well, which Alex? Because if I'm my kind of like introverted, drained energy self, then actually I don't want to show up here. And I'm probably not going to be great to listen to either. But actually, me, when I'm energized and I'm that Alex, my roommate used to call me Bambi because I was like really energetic in the mornings and really annoying. But even that Alex is she's great. She's great to listen to. She's full of energy, and she's happy and smiley. And I think hopefully that's quite infectious quality. Okay, so here are a few things I want you to think about with your brand of impact. Is first of all, who do you want to be known as? So when you walk into a room, or whether it's on stage or in a meeting or anything like that, I want you to think about who you want to show up as. Who is that person? What do you want them to think about you? Because they already are thinking something about you, and that will be coloring the quality of the work that you're about to do, and whether they're going to buy you, whether you're going to make it easy to work on a project, or the advice you're going to give them. It does color it. We are biased creatures, and this is something we kind of just want to lean into and work with, and we want to take control of, rather than it controlling you. So you need to know what kind of person, and I need you to think beyond integrity. If you're currently thinking the word integrity right now, I can tell you that every single other person is as well. It is the number one word with professionals, with business, like, oh, well, with integrity. Let's just assume integrity is a given as a business. And if you're listening to a podcast that's about bettering yourself, then you've already got a standard level of integrity because you care and you care about bettering yourself. So I need you to think beyond that and what that means. So write it down, or if you're on a walk or if you're watching this somewhere, I want you to really think about, okay, who, if someone else is writing or telling their mate, oh, so and so is about to come in right now. Steve's about to walk into the room, and I'll tell you who Steve is. Steve is, and now I want you to fill in the blanks. Who is Steve? Who are you? Whatever your name is. The other things that we really look at are values. This is such an important part of who you are and what you do, and also how you connect with people. Now, it's funny because I was talking about being competitive, but I'm competitive with myself. I'm not very competitive with other people. I don't like competing with other people because, and I say, in terms of sport, I do if it makes me better, if it helps create a benchmark. But if you're thinking, well, that person, this company does this, be aware of it, but don't use it as something that's going to hold you back, because it shouldn't do. What we want is to have your values shine through about what you stand for. And in today's marketplace, that is so important, is knowing what you stand for and knowing that you are someone that can connect with a purpose. And this has been a real buzzword the last few years. We like purpose. So what do you stand for? What do you care about? What is it that makes you you? And you might, if ever you've seen any of my talks, you might see I'll have an image of like a lineup, like a police lineup. And this is you and your competitors. So the one thing is are you blending into the background, or is who you are and what you value actually helping you shine and stand out? Because that is when the perfect client for you is going to go, that's the person for me. That's the company for me. Because it is about, are you a Pepsi or are you a Coke person? I asked this in a workshop last week. And I said, hands up if you love Pepsi, hands up if you love Coke, and do the same with pineapple and pizza. And this is the thing, neither is wrong or right. And you could easily argue one is better than the other. But really, they're both very similar, but they just have different shades, different colors and all sorts of things. And it's a case of going, well, the people who love pineapple and pizzas and you love pineapple and pizza, then they're your people. Stop talking to the people that don't like pineapple and pizza. Does that make sense? So values is one of the things that you really need to look at. I do have an exercise that I go through. It takes about 10 minutes or so. And it really basically takes you on a process of whittling down what you care about. But if I was going to give you a real shortcut, I would say go and look at your favorite stories or books or podcasts, ones that you keep going back to, that you find fascinating, that you're really interested in. So it could be like whatever your favorite film is, what the book is that you would say has really hit you and that you love a great deal, and that you could read again and again. Or even like what theme of podcasts do you listen to? Sometimes it can go via interests, like what kind of people do you love listening to? What kind of commonality do they all have? And therein lies the clue, is the fact that all those people that you surround yourself with, all the stories that you surround yourself, again, all the personal brands you surround yourself with, will give you a clue about what you value. And what kind of things you love, and I want you to pick out the theme. So even if you went to the last like articles that you wrote, it's kind of like being the Facebook algorithm. It's tracking you, what links you click on, and then wants to feed you more of it. So as soon as you say the word garden shed, suddenly you see garden sheds everywhere. This is a little bit different because, of course, it's a case of, well, what articles did I read? Now, obviously, you might be currently into something very specific, like I listen to a lot of behavioral science things. But again, that tells me I've always been into sociology, people, why people behave in certain ways, psychology. I love figuring that kind of thing out. But it's not, that's broad. So if I go deeper again, it's not just psychology, it's not just behavioral science. There's a kind of a commercial vibe to it. I'm not very spiritual. I'm not very, kind of anything that would say it's heart-centered kind of a little bit puts me off a bit, although I probably am heart-centered, but it's that kind of thing. So that isn't my vibe. So my vibe is more, a bit more technical, and therefore hopefully, if you're listening to me, that's probably a bit about you as well. So have a look at that, because it tells you what you care about, what your values are. Like, do you always root for the underdog? Do you love innovators? I had a meeting last week where someone said, I can clearly get this in, like, you light up when you're talking about new ideas and innovation. And I love looking at things from different angles and finding new ways of doing things. And I really don't like just doing something because that's the way it's always been done. So of course, if something works, don't just stick with it. But sometimes I feel that we get stuck in things that don't work, and we just do it because it's the way we've always done it, and because you're so entrenched in that system or process that you just end up just lost. And I think life is lost when we don't look at things and go, well, I think there's a better way here. Anyway, so that says a lot about my values. The next one is style. Now, everyone has their own unique style of communicating. So this is why I got, years ago, I started doing DISC. I'm a DISC practitioner. So DISC is a personality profile tool. I've talked about it loads on here, and I talk about it a lot with clients. I always DISC profile clients because I go, well, who are you? What's your style? Now, DISC I use personally. You might have done something like Myers-Briggs, or Insights is a common one, which is the colors. DISC is very similar. They're all based on Jungian psychology, and they all really look at just your preferences, I should say. So I think this is a key issue with DISC personality profiling tools. Some people think that's who you are, that's your label. It isn't. It's your communication preference. So you might prefer to get all the information. When I go to a restaurant, I prefer to look at the menu in advance, and that helps me with my decision-making skills. So I like to have all the information in front of me so I can make an informed decision. However, that said, I have tried to lean away from that and more into my more extroverted, like impromptu side, because I'm really working on my decision-making, my fast decision-making skills. So, then I'll try and go somewhere and just choose something and have to deal with the consequences of and potential food envy that might come up. So again, what's your style? Do you like to just go with the flow? Do you like to get to the results and the information really fast? Do you just don't want to hang about? You don't care how they got there, you just want the answer? Are you someone who likes to know tell me the background first, tell me how you got from A to D and all the steps in between, and make sure you give as much information as possible, and citations, please, so that I can understand it? Are you someone who wants to hear about my stories of me being at home? And you might notice that when I talk, I do try to lace in a little bit of everything, a little bit of evidence, a little bit of getting straight to the point, and a little bit of personality, like stories about me, so that I can connect with all the different ways that people love to be communicated with. But equally, I know my audience. I literally have the data to support who my audience is. So hopefully I'm also making it relevant for you. So this is where, if you're really wanting to connect with your audience, learning your style isn't just about you leaning into who you are. So you don't need to be an extrovert to be a great communicator or have a great personal brand. You don't need to, there are many, many introverts, I should say, out there who are fabulous communicators. I think that's a horrendous myth that's out there. And equally, someone who's really direct. And then you've got, of course, neurodiversity. I talk a lot. I'm neurodiverse. I can witter on, so I have to rein that in. Sometimes people who are autistic can be viewed and interpreted, I should say, as being blunt, when really they're just very direct. So they just get straight to the point, no muss, no fuss. So understanding your style is important, because you need to lean into it. And if you really want to be authentic, then this is important. And it's also important to raise awareness of what's helping you and what is not helping you. The benefit to doing all this is the more that you find about you, the more you understand other people, and you start to recognize personality styles in others. And you go, oh, they're not being really rude or arrogant or anything. That's just the way, that's just their preference. That's just how they deal with information. And I can't tell you, I know I'm talking about a personal brand, but so much of conflict is all about, well, they did this. And it's in reading between the lines of lines that aren't there simply because they're misunderstanding their preferences. It's a huge thing. So that's one thing. And in fact, talking of conflict, that is something to consider in what your brand is how do you deal with conflict, because this is a big thing about being public as well. If you're posting on social media, if you're speaking online, if you're speaking on podcasts, if you're trying to increase your brand, how you deal with conflict is one of the big things I think is not spoken about enough. Are you someone who likes to call people out? Are you quite aggressive with it? Are you actually conflict averse and then you run and hide? Where are you on that scale of confrontational versus running away and being an ostrich and just can't deal with it? And I have a particular deal, I'm not great at dealing with conflict. Depends what it is. I don't like being wrong. If I know that I am definitely right, I'm more likely to get protective and fight for someone. And I've known, I think I have one of those things, like I'm very loyal and very protective. So if my child was running in the road, or one time years ago when my first flat share with my girlfriends, we were in this maisonette above shops and we're in college, and we had this broken window and we complained about it for ages, and the wind sent like this huge shard through, and it went through into the basin. And had someone have been standing there, I think they'd have ended up like that guy in Ghost by the window, kind of sliced open and impaled. And I remember I was 18, I phoned them up, and I was absolutely scarily calm and irate. And I almost heard my mother's voice. I like had this, this is absolutely unacceptable kind of customer service voice, Karen voice. And I got it dealt with, and we'd had months and it wasn't dealt with. So how you deal with conflict and how you air your opinions about conflicts. We see a lot of people calling out competitors online or calling out things they don't like. That knowing how you deal with that will make you so much more confident about what you want people to see and how you want people to think about you. So I'd say conflict is a really good one to know about yourself and your brand and your style, because even if you're in a meeting, we're not just talking about the public persona you're sharing. It is about how you're showing up in your meetings, your relationships. And conflict is the one that usually does hold people back, because that's what people will talk about when you're not there. And that's really your attitude. Now, the next one is what you have to offer. So many people, and this might be you, think, well, I'm not the best, I'm not the greatest, I'm not this. Why would people listen to me? Well, I'm not the best podcast host, and you're listening to me. I'm not the best probably anything. But it's also about the fact that actually you have a unique offer based on your experience, your work, your view of the world, and your perception. And this is why I do a lot, I hope, in terms of diversity and equity and inclusion, because I think that if we have more diverse voices, then we get more diverse thought and we actually solve problems in more diverse ways. Back to the innovation thing. So, we need to hear your opinions and your viewpoint. Now, this is an exercise I use often in workshops. There's the proverb about the three blind men and an elephant. And I say three blindfolded young men are all walked up to an elephant, and they're each asked to touch it and describe what animal they feel. And one says, oh, well, it's sharp. Maybe it's a crocodile or something sharp. Another one says, you're ridiculous, because I can feel it's leathery. It's a cow. Must be a cow. And then another one says, no, it's wiggly and squiggly. I think it's a snake. Now, are they wrong? each of them is just repeating what they've seen and felt and experienced from their perspective. So one is squiggly, it's the tail, one is leathery, it's the body, and the other is sharp, it's the tusks and the teeth. So you can't deny their point of view and you can't deny their experiences, and we can't deny yours. As long as you are always talking from your experience and your expertise, you actually have a huge amount to offer the world that could be really helpful for someone else. Now, I've had this, especially, I did a talk last year that was more about my personal experience than me teaching something, and about me discovering very recently about me being ADHD, which explains a lot. And I was the only woman on the panel, and that's not an issue, by the way. But the reason why I say that is because there was a lot of women in the audience, and the women's experience of having ADHD is vastly different because of how traditionally children have been treated in schools. You know, boys will be boys, is kind of allowed to be a bit distracted and this and that and the other, whereas girls, it's not, and girls learn to mask a lot more. So afterwards I'd shared my story. I'd also shared it at another conference. I just happened to make it a throwaway comment talking about style and personality. And then afterwards after the first conference, I got people coming up to me and saying, thank you so much for sharing what you did. I realized this, I do the same thing, and it's so nice to know I'm not alone. And the second time they've actually found me. I didn't share my details. They found me on Instagram and sent me a private message, hello if you're listening, and said, and I have to say, I'd seen her in the front row, and I'd like asked for some engagement, and I hadn't gotten that much, and she looked almost annoyed, and if I had thought too much about it, I thought maybe this session just is not for her. And she messaged me. I was on the train on the way home, and I got this Instagram message, and it was this long, very personal story saying, thank you so much for standing up there and being unapologetically yourself, and showing me that I can do that. I feel, I can't remember her exact words. She said she was just telling me so much about how she feels she can't be herself, or that she's struggled with being herself, and that she ought to be something else. And this is the thing, you being you and embracing the diversity of your personality and your learning styles and your communication styles and your values, the more you do that publicly, the more you give permission to other people that it's okay to be themselves. So actually, the more that you can really discover your brand of impact, the more diversity we will have in the world, the more diverse thoughts we will have in the world, the more creativity, the more innovation, the more problems we will solve. And I just think that's a great thing. And I think it's a great thing when we can allow someone to feel free as well, to be themselves. It's a very empowering thing. So that is really what I wanted to share with you about what my brand of impact is. And I want you to think about what is restricting you and holding you back from being you, because it's either going to be what you think you should be, and you might have imposed that on yourself. I say that because clients have come to that conclusion when we've done coaching and when we go through the program. And when they go through that, they go, I can't believe that I thought I was trying to fit. They come going, Alex, can you help me fit in? Can you help me with my accent? Can you help me sound more like a CEO? And then we will within 3 sessions, they'll go, oh, so it's actually just okay to be me. I don't have to be whatever they think I have to be anyway. And they didn't think it at all. It was me. I thought I had to be this. I thought I had to be a certain set way. And it's really important, I think, then you allow yourself to be you, to really think about what you value, what you care about, and to communicate that in a way that supports others. So my question to you is, what are you going to do next? And if you'd like any help, or if you'd like my values exercise, it's a couple of sheets long, it's a PDF. then send me a message, get in touch with me, send a carrier pigeon over on DMs, wherever you're listening or watching this. Send me your email and I'll make sure we get that to you, and just say values sheet or something like that. And I'll make sure I send you that so you can find out a little bit more about your brand of impact. And if you would like to get in touch and find out more about what we do, and if we can help you, then well, you know where to find me. Take care, everyone, and look forward to the next episode.